thing to tell you about fashion. It is that denim on denim drives me crazy. Sorry, Canadian tuxedo lovers. And two, that fashion throughout history has always been weird. Put on your crop tops, jeggings, and platform sneakers and let's take a look. Now, if Miley Cyrus wants to get some fashion cred in my book, she needs to toss away those gold grills that she's been sporting lately and trade it in for some late 16th century fashion action with blackened teeth. Oh, hey! I'm an Elizabethan era fashion blogger. Some historians have said that during the Elizabethan era, because sugar was so expensive, it was a sign of wealth if your teeth looked like they were rotting, because that meant that you could afford to indulge in expensive sweets. So, it was a brief trend for women to black out some of their teeth in order to look wealthy, in the exact reverse of our modern day obsession with super bright white teeth. Pretty weird, huh? Now moving on to the early 1900s, we have one of my favorite fashionable accessories from history, which is the handkerchief holder. That's right, if you were a wealthy fashionable woman of the day, you wouldn't carry your own handkerchief in your hand. No, you would wear a ring which was attached to a little chain which was attached to your handkerchief. That way you could delicately twirl it around if you cared to, or if you needed to say, blow your nose, all you had to do was produce your handkerchief, and there it was. Beautiful. And fun side note, in addition to the hanky holder, Victorian women also wore skirt lifters, which were essentially like tongs on the end of a chain wallet attached to the waist of their dress, so that they could reach down and pull on the chain and lift their skirt without having to go all the way down to the ground, which would have been very unladylike. Now back in the 1920s, real spiffy gals would get their hair bobbed and would wear things called castle bands, named after popular dancer Irene Castle, who popularized these popular headbands, which were later called headache bands because these pearls stretched so tightly around their foreheads that they gave girls headaches, don't you know? Or maybe it was all that bathtub gin. Ooh, boop boopy doo, boop boopy doo. I have no idea the Great Depression's about to happen. Now in the 1950s, over in England, there were a group of girls who were referred to as teddy boy girls, aka Judies. Oftentimes they would wear things like little blazers, kerchiefs, cameo brooches. What these Judies were all about was spending a lot of time making their own clothes, since they were often working class girls who couldn't afford a lot of clothes. They would sew these gorgeous sorts of ensembles which were a bit masculine, since they were essentially copying the style of teddy boys at the time, who were emulating the fashion of Edwardian dandies. You look at pictures of Judies today, they really are quite hip and look like they could be found just congregating at any Brooklyn bar. Incredible. And then in the 1960s, fashion designers started getting really crazy, probably due to the drugs, and making clothes out of unconventional materials such as sheet metal and newspapers. And I was thinking about what a newspaper dress might look like today, and this is what I came up with. It's just my iPhone on the New York Times. It wouldn't cover very much. It could just be a necklace. For the last trend, we have extreme shoulder pads of the 1980s, because in that era when women were entering the workforce in unprecedented numbers, we needed to power dress. What better way to look like a powerful woman than to look like a football player? I wouldn't mess with me. So those were 6 of some of the strangest fashion fads from history that I could find, but what about you? What trends from today or centuries ago did I leave out? Leave them in the comments, and don't forget to look stylish.